This is gonna hold. Can you stop falling? Hey everybody, boy Malik here today. I got this whole Ichigo Final Getsuga Funko Pop, and I'm trying to hang it up on my desk right here on the shelf, but it keeps falling down for reasons I am not an engineer and I don't understand gravity all that well, other than the fact that what goes up comes down, but whatever. I'm just gonna hang it up next to a plushie right here, and we'll figure that out. I just saw the latest Bleach the Calamity, the first 3 episodes of Core 4 for 1,000 Year Blood War arc. I'm going to make a Bleach video at some point this week. I don't know when, but it's going to come out. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What am I going to talk about today? Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. ADHD brain. I'm going to talk about everything I missed for the last chapter, 1,185, as well as my predictions for 1,186, okay? Because there was a lot of information that was dumped on us, and a lot of crazy shit was going on with the reveal of, not reveal, but we all saw coming Gunko's father, Growl, and then we also have everything talking about what was Brook'S said, and what he commented on about how rare devil fruits are. Then I'm also want to talk about everything what I think the fight with Luffy and Loki against Emu is going to go down, okay? But doing all that, please, for me, I'm a small new channel, and anything goes a long way against the demon that is Algorithmus, or Algorithm, if you're using the proper pronunciation of his name. About 98% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed, so please, if you're here, a minute and 30 seconds in, like, comment, subscribe on this video, and let's get into it. Okay, first thing I didn't talk about nearly enough, okay, was was basically said by Growl, okay? So we see Brook, who, by the way, I gotta make a video on Brook's, like, just fucked up life, on everything he's been through, just, like, the absolute shit show he's been through, and just, like, the horror of just, like, oh, yeah, just one tragedy another. Oda's like, yeah, no, you know what's fun? Let's just keep tormenting Brook. Let's look at all the ways I can just shit on this poor bastard. But no, not another day for that. First thing we see is basically Growl summon. He's like coming in. First off, we all knew Growl we all could have predicted Kandel. We all thought Kandel was in Myanmar, but no, it turns out she was just an innocent victim of alleged assaulting. We don't know what the relationship was, if it's consensual or not. I don't know, but I'm going to assume not, given the fucked up nature of the Tenryubuto. And we see this happen where Growl comes in. He's like, oh, I remember you. Yeah, you're that kid with the afro who was Kandel's squire. Yeah, I remember you. Yeah, no, I remember you. Yeah, you weren't allowed near me. And then, you know, he basically says, now, normally, I wouldn't come out here to help one measly child, which that probably leads me to believe that God's Knights have kids all over the kingdom. They're probably the kind of people who, like, go to an island and they're like, oh, in Growl's case, oh, Kandel, oh, she kind of bad. Oh, no, I got to get that. And then, you know, does what he does. And then we see this happen where they're born. It happened with Shanks and Shamrock, although in Garling's case, he didn't seem like he was assaulting Magnolia. She actually seemed to love and care about him, but Garling's a piece of shit and said, fuck that, I don't want a family with you. And then we see from there. And so Growl comes there and he's like, hey, I'm supposed to grab this kid because she has those bipolar irises, all right? And then when Brook sees him for the first time, he sees Growl's eyes. He sees he has the heterochromia, the mismatched eyes, just like Shuri and Gunko. And Brook immediately is just like, wait, what's going on? And then, because earlier, Shuri had been ranting, saying, oh my God, this guy is such a loser. Could you believe it? That guy right there, that guy, pretending to be my father. And Brook's like, what? No, he is your father. Don't say that guy. He's your dad. What are you talking about? And it just basically where we see Growl step in, and then Brook's like, oh, fuck, this is bad. And then Growl explains he has those mismatched other irises. When I think of the word iris now, I think of the song from Chainsaw Man, the Resident movie, Iris out. For some reason, I always think that song now, Iris out. But so then, back to the topic, ADHD brain aside, he basically goes off and he says, I couldn't awaken those eyes, but the Great One believes she might. And then Emu was like, wait, hold on, Growl. You're leaking too much of the script, right? You're spoiling two things. We can't have people knowing our dastardly evil plans, okay? Except when Emu wants people to know about his evil schemes for reasons I don't understand, but he's like, yeah, no, we don't, no talking, Growl. And so then he talks about those mismatched irises. So first off, I'm not the only one who thought of this. Everybody was making this comment. It's the Sharingan. Shuri's going to awaken the Sharingan, which actually, technically speaking, she should have woken the Mangekyo Sharingan because she killed her dad. Now, Granted, she hated her dad, so she probably wouldn't feel any sadness, at least normally, because, okay, Naruto tangent aside. Naruto tangent begins now. So in Naruto, you have something called the Sharingan. It is basically a jutsu power in the Uchiha, or Uchiha bloodline, that basically releases when people in that clan or lineage experience heightened emotions. Fear, anger, the desire to protect people, loss. That causes the brain to release a unique chakra that gets reflected on the irises, the Sharingan, and it lets them see through ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, as well as copy all those types. And that's just the base Sharingan. If you happen to go through something really fucked up and you watch somebody you love die or you kill them yourselves, you get the Mangekyo Sharingan. And the good news is you not only get all your stats upgraded, but you can also get new abilities too. Downside is you might go blind unless you have a sibling or parent or relative who has a Mangekyo Sharingan, but that's at its side. So fans are like, oh, it's the Sharingan. She could have awakened some special powers, okay? Now listen, in fairness, eyeball powers are not unique to Naruto. Naruto fans, I love Naruto, but you need to stop. You're not original, okay? Code Geass, Full Metal Alchemist, Hunter x Hunter. I mean, the Scarlet Eyes is basically the Sharingan. The Jigana, like we've seen this shit before, okay? So it's not unique to you, all right? But then we see what happens when Shuri gets taken over, Domi reversed, and now she murders her dad, and then growls like she can be somebody special who can awaken those eyes, okay? Those bipolar eyes, irises. So let me theorize on what I think this power is, okay? So what does Imu want? Well, he wants the world to be flooded. He also wants the world according to go to his will. So, I'm gonna guess, I'm just gonna spitball here what the irises, bipolar irises are. I'm gonna guess one of a few things. Okay, first thing, the ability to see and control the future. I know that sounds crazy. I know that's out there. I'm just trying to spitball here, okay? Because what does Imu want? He wants the world basically to be flooded, and so he can end up his perfect world. If this is true, if this is true, the best way to ensure your rule is to basically see in the future, and that way you can eliminate any potential threats. Now, there are downsides to this, is because the future is like full of possibilities, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you can't predict everything. But this basically leads me down that route of like, okay, so why these irises are? Why? Because Imu wants to be able to control everything. He wants to be able to see and control the future. This is basically what the Almighty is in Bleach, another eye power we see. So yeah, there you go, Naruto fans. You don't get to claim a whole trope. Okay, you can stop claiming the trope. We see that from there. Okay, that's the first thing I can. The second thing is, okay, this has to relate in some way to poneglyphs, maybe, because I'm gonna make a video about eye powers at some point. God willing, about the whole system that is, with the Third Eye Tribe. Because the Third Eye Tribe in not Naruto, freaking One Piece, I was going to say Bleach, but One Piece, Pudding's Third Eye Ant Tribe, they can awaken it, and they can see and decipher the poneglyph text. Now, why Imu would need that power is, I don't know why he would need somebody who could decipher poneglyphs. Well, they actually do try to get Robin, and Robin could read poneglyphs, and she could decipher them and recreate ancient weapons. But I don't see how that would be relevant at all to what the whole Gorosei's plans are for the world, and how they want to basically plunge the world into complete and total anarchy. Well, not anarchy, but flood the world, okay? So, see the future and control the future, and then secondly, being able to decipher poneglyphs, okay? The only way, either way I can think of it, is with the bipolar irises, okay? Is this has to relate in some way to Domi Reversi, all right? Some way Domi Reversi, or like if we're going to use the Japanese mythology. Let's go with Japanese mythology, okay? Or Shintoism. When I believe it was with the right eye, when the storm god washed away his right eye, he created Izanagi, the Japanese god of creation, washed out one of his eyes. His children, Susanoo from the left eye, and his other child, Amaterasu, washed away from his other eye. So does this lead me to believe that each eye has a unique power? Maybe. Possibly. That's probably what the case is, because you have bipolars or two different color eyes. That's how I probably would read it as, in terms of like, okay, what's going to happen? Okay, that's the first part of it. I'm going to make a video on every single eyeball technique or eyeball power we see, or a special set of eyes, because there are probably a few in this series that probably deserve mention, okay? So that's the first part of this video, okay? The next part I want to talk about, okay, was just, okay, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. Imu basically just yapping because he basically just he basically drops some major lore in the last panel of the chapter where he's like, oh yeah, this shit happened 800 years ago. Like, I fucked you guys over. Like, I took your kids hostage, and then bam, I hold you guys. And, we just see Loki's reaction. He's like, wait, you what? You did what? What? And he's just immediately crashing out, justifiably so. And so he starts fighting Emu, and then Luffy shows up. And by the way, Luffy took off his sandals. I'm going to rearrange this, okay, in the fight when I talk about where I think the fight is going to go with Loki, Luffy, and Emu. Luffy took off the boots and he's putting on his sandals, his ass-whooping sandals. It is time for belt to ass on this devil man fuck. All right? But back to what I was going to say about what Emu said. So Emu basically, when he's fighting Loki, basically explains, oh yeah, by the way, this all happened before. Like, I took all your people hostage. This happened before, and that's why you were defeated. All right? This is why you were defeated. Now, I mentioned in the video how the Elbaf mural, the Harley text, it looked like it was painted by children, and it most certainly was, because the giant parents all died, and the kids survived, and that's how you get, the giants continuing in Elbaf. And so that leads me to believe, okay, what happened? So I'm going to say that I'm still on the theory that Dozan and Elbaf are on the side of the 20 Kings against Joy Boy's faction. But when Dozan saw the direction Emu was heading in, he immediately flipped sides and was like, oh no, fuck this, I'm out. Just peace the fuck out. And then, when he does this, he comes into contact with Emu, he fights them. And then what Emu does, what his faction do, is they take all the giant kids hostage, basically saying as leverage, and they say, yo, sit out this battle. Like, this reminds me of, like, I'm a history buff. If you're still watching, I'm still a history buff. I'm a huge history buff. And one of the things I always remember of situations like this is what happened in the Battle of Bosworth. So, Richard III, a very colorful character, against Henry Tudor, future Henry VII, at the Battle of I forget Stan. It's basically the final battle of the Wars of the Roses. Battle of Bosworth. And Henry basically is now being outnumbered Richard's forces 2-1. And now Henry's about to lose this battle. On the side, on the background, is this guy named Stanley, okay, who was also Henry's father-in-law, I believe, and he basically waited until the last second so he could jump on Henry's side, take out Richard, Henry becomes king, the Tudor dynasty begins, and all is good in England, okay? Unless you are a Plantagenet supporter, then you get offed. But no, so I'm of the opinion that Emu basically used the Giants' kids as leverage, and he said, y'all gonna stay here on the sidelines during this battle. You're not gonna help Joy Boy. Because we know, it has been said multiple times, Joy Boy's faction lost. We don't know the exact circumstances of the war. We don't know how it started, who was good, who was right. Vegapunk said it his best. I'm not going to try to make a morality judgment. Plus, keep in mind, Emu is 800 years old. His thoughts on the feelings of the matter could have changed, at any point. And so we're going to see this play out in real time once this happens for, the world government and everything that follows from there, okay? But no, Joy Boy's faction lost. And so the Giants, I believe, were basically strong-armed, or had the kids kidnapped, and Emu basically says, yeah, no, sit your asses down. You sit on the bench. You're not playing this game. And so Joy Boy's faction loses out. We know Dozan gets killed. And so basically for the next 800 years, Ragnar is just chilling with the devil fruit, waiting for a new master to come along. So I believe that is just that what happened. Used it as leverage and basically said, yeah, no, you're not getting your fucking teeth kicked in, okay? You're just going to sit here and just shit the fuck out. Second thing I want to talk about with regards to Emu. First off, he was there. Like, can we just not address he was there during the whole incident and just Marcus Mars was maybe there. Now, I'm of the opinion that maybe it was Grau who was being possessed by Emu, but then we saw the Itsumade, so maybe it was Mars. And then you see Emu just showing up in his, blob form, and he's just like, oh, yeah, no, this is a bad time to show up. Maybe I should just leave. Oh, no, I'll just pretend I wasn't here. Just pretend I wasn't here. And then Grau goes on a monologue about the bipolar eyes, irises, and then Emo's like, well, hi, Grau. Grau, no, we can't be spilling all our dirty plans out. We can't do this, okay? And that's funny to me because Emu doesn't want him to start, ratting out their secrets. Okay, fine, whatever. That's totally cool. What? Well, what were you doing to Cobra when you were talking to Cobra? Cobra rolls up during the, the Egghead arc, and he rolls up to the Goros and he asks, hey, what's the D stand for? And the Goros are all like, did This fucker has the balls, man. No wonder he rolls around in a wheelchair, man. This guy's got balls of sea prism stone. And so then Emu shows up and they're like, great Emu. And Emu's like, listen, I'm not going to answer any questions. I'm going to tell you 2 things, and you are going to answer a question. And then he explains the will of D and everything. And he didn't explain what the will of D is, but he explains some things. And then he asks Cobra, hey, what was that letter? The name of the letter Queen Lily signed. What was that? And then Cobra's like, I'm going to die here, aren't I? Yeah, damn straight, motherfucker. You are going to die here. Okay, fuck, I'm going to die. Nefertari D. Lily! And then Emu was like, lying bitch. And then, we just see him from there, kill Cobra and everything. So then we fall from there. And so so to me, it's funny to me that he doesn't want Grau to start talking, but Emu basically went on a full-on villain monologue where he basically just told Cobra, he's like, listen, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want. You can just go F off. And then he does the same thing with Loki. And he's like, Loki's like, oh, yes. You giants don't know your own history. 800 years ago, you lost, all right, because your kids were getting kidnapped. So I'm using the exact same strategy again. And then, Emu's like, you're already my slaves to begin with. And then Loki's like, what? No, fucker, get back, get your ass beat. And then, he starts yapping some more. And then in the most just diabolical panel, we see Luffy just rear back his head and just be like, get the fuck out of my country, bitch. And he just decks him. Now that's, and just I can imagine Emu's like, and Luffy's like, no more of this flashback bullshit. We just ended one. No, we're not going back 800 years in this arcade. No, we're doing that for later. Get ready, Gumu, no, get the fuck out of Elbaf. And then Emu just gets up and he's just like, I was going to tell you everything about the Void Sentry, but fuck it. Fuck you guys. I'm just going to beat all your asses. And so, we're going to see that fight where it continues. But for me, it's just the revelation that the Giants effectively had to sell out to save their kids. And they did this. And seemingly now, I'm going to assume they all died. The kids survived, obviously, and they continued on Elbaf. But to think that how it's actually happened is just wild to me. That, this is how the Giants lost. And how one of the reasons why Joy Boy was, taken off the stage. All right. So that's the second thing. Okay. Third and final thing I wanted to yap about was, this is the big one. The fight between Luffy and Loki and Emu. Okay. I'm going to make a full video breaking this down assuming we get to this point, but holy shit, we are getting an actual fight between Luffy versus the fucking ruler of the world. Again, remember One Piece was a story about fun pirates and a boy made out of rubber jumping out of a barrel. Well, no, not anymore. We're fighting the fucking devil, man. Let's go, okay? And I saw one of the most diabolical comments. Somebody said, Luffy has punched out every single tier of dragon, all right? He's punched out Celestials. He's punched out dragons. He's punched out Celestial dragons. He's punched out the Gorosei. He's punched out Emu. He's conquered the whole world at this point. He's punched out little dragons like Kaido. Which, side note, I remember people saying, oh, man, Luffy in base form wrecked Emu. And I'm like, guys... remember when Luffy punched out Kaido in the beginning and, gear 3rd and he hit him to the ground? How'd that fight work out for Luffy at the beginning? Because I'm pretty sure he got absolutely fucked by Kaido. He got wrecked, like no diffed. So, yeah, I'm going to pump the brakes on saying, oh, yeah, Luffy's going to absolutely wreck his ass. I'm like, no. I'm of the opinion. Listen, I think it would be dark and brutal if the Straw Hats lose in this arc. Like, we see them actually take the L because... let's be honest, since Gear 5, outside of a time limit, Luffy doesn't really have any people who can beat him. I think the only people who can beat him in a fight are swordsmen who use slash attacks, Aokiji, but he's not in the Navy, he's with Blackbeard's crew. And then you've got, I'm going to say, I think Fujitora could beat him, Akainu could beat him because he's got the magma powers. But other than that, I don't think anybody else in the series actually has a chance of beating him. So, it would be great at Parnoda if he basically just said, oh, the Straw Hats lose, Emu takes the kids, they win. Like, that would be a brutal way to go down. Now, maybe that could serve for Dragon's Revolution and everything and what he's going to do. But this would be a brutal way for the Straws to go down this. But the that's the first part the second part I want to bring up, okay? So now, how I think this fight is going to go down, okay? We've already seen Luffy and Loki team up to fight against Emu. Now, Emu was missing Gunko and everything, so it's not exactly, a one-to-one, even oddly fight. But this fight should mirror that one in a lot of ways because let's be straight up. I don't think Emu is going to have an easy time fighting them. I think he's going to have to do some kind of bullshit or rip out some kind of forbidden power where he's like, I will now release Super Omen Jutsu and just absolutely just, try to ink out the W. I just don't see how this fight is going to go down well for him. Like, I don't see how this fight realistically could go down well for him because he's going to fight against, he's fighting against the 2 mythical zone users. Well, 3 if you count Ragnar. And so he's up against it. Now, how I see this fight is going to play out. Okay, so I'm just going to see Luffy show up and then he's going to be like, hey, Loki, I got this, man. I got this. Let's see if you can run the fade with me. And then Luffy just immediately goes through his gear transformations, 3rd, 4th. He tries to hit Emu, and then, he does some damage, but not much. And then he's like, okay, fuck it. Gear 5, let's go. He goes into Gear 5, and then he just starts fighting Emu, and then, Loki's like, okay, hey, Straw Hat, you might want to move out of the way. I'm actually, no, Luffy wouldn't have to dodge any of Loki's attacks because Loki's got thunder powers. He controls lightning strikes. Luffy is immune to those types of attacks, so I don't see how he would need to dodge. You can just be like, okay, Straw Hat, I'm gonna unload my full power, all right? I'm gonna summon up a massive thunderstorm. You keep hitting him, all right? You won't get damaged, but he will. And Luffy's like, okay, you got it, Loki. And he just charges up like a massive thunder arrow, and he just like, boom, just absolutely just blasts him with it. And then, Emu like blocks it, and Luffy's immune to it, obviously. But that's probably one way I could see that fight going down. Another way is, this would probably be funny if it was true. Loki shapes into his hybrid form, and then he basically tells Ragnar, he's like, Ragnar, you help Straw Hat. And then Straw Hat and Ragnar's like, squeeze. He's like, yep. And because, Ragnar already comforted Luffy in that, hilarious panel when Luffy was getting chewed out by Nami, and she's just like, you're burning down all of Elbaf. And Ragnar's like, it's okay, fam. It's okay. I still support you. Ragnar being an emotional support squirrel. Confirmed, okay? And so, you can see freaking Ragnar basically teaming up with Luffy to do some kind of combination attacks. Now, Luffy is weak against ice. That is confirmed, okay? That is confirmed, all right? But I honestly don't think that wouldn't stop them from doing anything like combination attacks where Luffy's like, hey, Ragnar, turn into rubber. And Luffy turns him into rubber, and they do some kind of like ice bounce attack or whatever, all right? They could do some combination moves there, okay? Because we know Ragnar's an ice squirrel, and Loki's just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to keep hammering thunder attacks at him, all right? We're going to hit him really, really hard, okay? Luffy, we're going to hit him really hard and see what happens, okay? That's probably another way that fight could go down. Any other ways I'm trying to think of how this fight could honestly break down between, Luffy, Loki, and Emu is... Honestly, Emu could be holding back. Like, he could be a thing where this is just my devil man form, my true devil form, and then he activates his Satan form or whatever, and he just absolutely begins putting belts to asses on them, and then they just getting absolutely curb stomped, and they're just like, okay, what do we do? I don't know, fuck it, and they just have to run out the clock. All right, and I've already made videos talking about Zoro and Sanji versus Killingham and Summers, which. Those fights I've already mentioned, they're probably going to go down. But that's pretty much one of the 3 ways I can see it, all right? Loki basically just charging up thunder attacks and telling Luffy, hey, you can take the damage, he can't. Luffy and Ragnar teaming up to use some kind of combination technique. And then thirdly and lastly, all right, this is probably going to be if Emu basically shows, oh, he's holding back. Like, could you imagine this is a thing where he's like, I don't want to do this because it drains my lifespan, but fuck it. I hope you're happy. Now I have to kill all of you using full power. Like some Frieza type shit. When Frieza came back to life, he's like, I had to train for the first time in my life, Goku. I fucking hate you so much. So I could just see Emu being that kind of petty where he's just like, I have to go full power now. Like, I actually have to give a shit now. Are you happy now, Straw Hat? Congratulations. You've made me try hard. This is what you made me do. And you could just see that, how something so petty. But, that's my thoughts. All right. I'm going to make more videos this week. Hopefully, I'll finally get a Bleach video out. But until then, I'm your boy Malik. Welcome to the kingdom. And y'all have a nice night. Deuces.